USS Enterprise was the second ship in the Yorktown class. Because she's the sixth carrier in the United States Navy, her designation was CV6. The aircraft carrier was the seventh U.S. Navy vessel with that name. The Big E and Grey Ghost was what the crew mostly called her. The aircraft carrier was laid down on July 16, 1934. Enterprise was launched on the 3rd October 1936 at Newport News Shipbuilding Dockyard in Virginia. The vessel was commissioned on May 12, 1938. Standard displacement is at 19,800 tons. Overall length was at 246.7 meters, beam at 33.2 meters, and draft at 7.9 meters. 9 Babcock and Wilcox boilers generated 120,000 shaft horsepower. 4 shafts connected to 4 Parsons geared steam turbines gave the ship the speed of 32.5 knots. A CXAM-1 radar, an SK air search radar, and an SM fire directional radar were added on the ship. Armament originally consisted of 8 single 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns, 4 quad 1.1-inch guns, and 24 50 caliber machine guns. 1 hangar was placed on the hull and 3 elevators were added. She had a wooden flight deck and an island on the starboard side. Enterprise carried around 80 to 90 aircraft. She operated along the east coast in the Caribbean until April 1939, when she was ordered to duty in the Pacific. On the morning of December 7, 1941, Enterprise launched 18 SBT dive bombers, which were planned to land on Ford Island at Pearl Harbor. Many of them were intercepted by Japanese fighters and 7 of them were shot down. After receiving a radio message from Pearl Harbor, Enterprise launched an airstrike, but due to inaccurate reports, the strike group never found the Japanese fleet. 3 days later, aircraft from the carrier sank the Japanese submarine I-70. She sailed on January 11, 1942, and she protected convoys reinforcing Samoa. On February 1st, Enterprise's Task Force 8 raided Kwajalein, Watia, and Melaleuca in the Marshall Islands, and her aircraft sank 3 Japanese ships, damaged 8, and destroyed numerous aircraft and ground facilities. Then Enterprise became a part of Task Force 16, and this fleet attacked Wake and Marcus Islands. Then Task Force 16 departed Pearl Harbor to join Hornet, and the fleet sailed west. 16 B-25 Mitchells were launched from Hornet, and Enterprise provided air cover. The American bombers attacked Tokyo in what is known as the Doolittle Raid. Task Force 16 arrived too late to help Yorktown in the Battle of Coral Sea. She sailed to Pearl Harbor for modifications. Armament was improved as the 50 caliber machine guns were replaced with the 20mm Oerlikons. 30 of them were placed on the ship. On May 28th, Enterprise departed Pearl Harbor with Task Force 16. This task force consisted of Enterprise, Hornet, 6 cruisers, 10 destroyers, and 4 oilers. 2 days later, Yorktown and Task Force 17 departed Pearl Harbor as well, and all forces waited for the Japanese carrier fleet northeast of Midway. The Battle of Midway began on June 4th, and Task Force 16 sent out unescorted attacks consisting of single groups of aircraft. Enterprise's torpedo bombers attacked Kaga, but most of the aircraft were shot down by combat air patrol and anti-aircraft guns. None of the torpedoes hit Kaga. Then 2 squadrons of Enterprise dive bombers arrived over the fleet, while the combat air patrol was attacking Yorktown's torpedo bombers. In the same time, Yorktown's squadron of dive bombers arrived and attacked Soryu. Both dive bombing squadrons from Enterprise attacked Kaga, but mid-dive, 3 aircraft broke off the attack to destroy Akagi. Dick Best landed his bomb on the flight deck of Akagi, and due to explosions inside the hangar, the carrier was inoperable. Kaga got hit by at least 4 bombs. So far, 2 Japanese carriers were hit and only 1 remained. Huey launched aircraft to attack Yorktown. Then, a combined attack group of dive bombers was sent off to finish Hiryu, and Dick Best was one of 2 pilots in history that hit 2 carriers in one day. 4 bombs hit Hiryu. So far, Enterprise damaged 3 carriers, which were later scuttled due to extensive damage from air attacks, and on the next day, dive bombers sank the heavy cruiser Mikuma. Enterprise returned to Pearl Harbor to receive modifications and aircraft. Another quad 1.1-inch gun mount and 2 Oerlikons were added. Enterprise sailed on July 15th for the South Pacific, where she joined Task Force 61 to support the amphibious landings in the Solomon Islands on August 8th. On August 24th, a force was discovered 300 kilometers north of Guadalcanal, and Task Force 61 sent out a strike. A unit of dive bombers and fighters appeared heading towards Enterprise, and despite combat air patrol and anti-aircraft gunfire, 3 bombs hit the carrier, causing significant damage. 4 near misses damaged Enterprise below the waterline. She sailed to Pearl Harbor for repairs, which occurred from September 10th to October 16th, 1942. Anti-aircraft armament was improved by adding 40mm Bofors as well as multiple Oerlikons. 4 quad 1.1-inch gun mounts were removed. In addition, VF-10, also known as the Grim Reapers, joined Enterprise's air group. Together with Hornet, Task Force 61 sailed back to the South Pacific, where they would fight the Japanese carriers in the Battle of Santa Cruz. Enterprise's dive bombers damaged Zuiho and heavily damaged Chokaku, as well as the heavy cruiser Chikuma. In return, Enterprise was hit 2 times by dive bombers and Hornet sank due to extensive damage. After this battle, Enterprise became the only functional but damaged aircraft carrier in the United States Navy in the Pacific theater. On one of the decks, crew posted a sign, Enterprise vs. Japan. She arrived in New Caledonia on October 30th for repairs and sailed on 11th of November. 2 days later, her aircraft helped to sink the battleship Hiei near Guadalcanal. After the naval battle of Guadalcanal, Enterprise shared the sinking of 16 ships and damaging 8 more. She sailed for final repairs in Omiya on November 16th and finished on December 4th. On January 30th, Enterprise's fighters flew combat patrol for a cruiser-destroyer group in the Battle of Rennell Island. Despite the destruction of most of the attacking Japanese bombers by fighters, the heavy cruiser Chicago was sunk by aerial torpedoes. Enterprise sailed to Pearl Harbor to receive the first Presidential Unit Citation awarded to an aircraft carrier. In the summer of 1943, Enterprise was temporarily relieved of duty due to the arrival of the new Essex and Independence class carriers in the theater. Enterprise entered Puget Sound Naval Shipyard for a much-needed overhaul. Anti-aircraft guns were once again improved. After returning for duty, Enterprise provided air support to the landings on Meccan Atoll from November 19th to November 21st, 1943. On the night of November 26th, Enterprise introduced carrier-based night fighters to the Pacific. The carrier returned to Pearl Harbor on December 9th. Enterprise joined the Fast Carrier Task Force to soften up the Marshall Islands and support landings on Kwajalein from January 29th to February 3rd, 1944. Then Enterprise sailed with Task Force 58 to strike the Japanese naval base at Shark Lagoon in the Caroline Islands on February 17th. A night radar strike was sent off from Enterprise and achieved excellent results. She detached Task Force 58 with escorts to launch raids on Jeluit Atoll on February 20th. Together with Task Group 36.1, she provided cover for the landings on Emerald Island from March 19th to March 25th. On the next day, she joined Task Force 58 and this fleet sent out raids on Yap, Palau, Ulithi, and Walae. On June 19, 1944, Enterprise took part in the largest carrier battle in history, the Battle of Philippine Sea. For over 8 hours, the airmen of both the United States Navy and the Imperial Japanese Navy fought in the air. Enterprise provided cover in the invasion of Saipan through July 5th. She then sailed to Pearl Harbor for repairs and overhaul. After operating in the Palau Islands, Enterprise joined Task Force 38 on October 7th. This fleet completed raids on the Japanese airfields over Formosa, Okinawa, and the Philippines. In the Battle of Leyte Gulf, Enterprise struck ships in all 3 Japanese fleets. In late December, she was reclassified as a CVN, the N standing for night. She joined Task Group 38.5 and swept the waters of north of Luzon and the South China Sea during January 1945 when she attacked targets from Formosa to Indochina. She then joined Task Group 58.5 on February 10, 1945 and provided day and night combat air patrol for the fleet as it struck Tokyo on February 16th. Enterprise then supported the Marines in the Battle of Iwo Jima from February 19th to March 9th. She sailed to Ulithi for a quick stop and departed on March 15th. The carrier raided Kyushu, Honshu, and the shipping in the inland sea of Japan. Enterprise was lightly damaged by a bomb on March 18th. After a stop at Ulithi, she supported the Okinawa operation until she was damaged by a kamikaze on April 11th. Returning to Okinawa after repairs on May 14, 1945, Enterprise suffered another kamikaze. The kamikaze was a Zero, piloted by Shunsuke Tomiyasho, and his hit destroyed Enterprise's forward elevator. She sailed to the Puget Sound Naval Yard, where she underwent repairs and an overhaul mid-1945. The war ended with the Japanese surrender on September 2, 1945. After repairs, she took part in 3 voyages of Operation Magic Carpet, bringing home more than 10,000 veterans. She was decommissioned on February 17, 1947 and was scheduled to be handed over to the state of New York as a permanent memorial, but sadly this plan was suspended in 1949. Attempts were made to keep the ship as a memorial, but not enough funds were raised to buy the ship from the Navy and she was sold in 1958 to be scrapped. A memorial plaque was installed at the base of what is still called Enterprise Tower. Scrapping was completed as of May 1960. 24 years later, an exhibit was dedicated in the Naval Aviation Museum in Florida to house artifacts, photos, and other items of historical interest. The name of Enterprise was revived in 1958 when the world's first nuclear-powered carrier was laid down. And now, another Enterprise would be planned as a Gerald R. Ford class carrier, and some artifacts from CV6 will be incorporated into the planned carrier.